In the quietest corner of his sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, behind a heavy mahogany door with intricate Samoan patterns carved into its surface, lies a room that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson calls his place of power. Unlike the rest of his meticulously designed home, with its modern aesthetics and clean lines, this space feels like stepping into a different world entirely, a sacred sanctuary where time seems to stand still. The room isn't particularly large, but its presence feels immense. Dark wooden shelves line the walls from floor to ceiling, each one carefully crafted to hold pieces of a life lived with intensity and purpose. The air carries a subtle mix of leather, aged paper, and a hint of the same cologne Dwayne's father used to wear, Rocky Johnson's signature scent that always announced his arrival at wrestling venues across the country. On this particular morning, as the first rays of California sunshine filter through the room's single window, Dwayne stands in the doorway, his imposing frame casting a long shadow across the hardwood floor. In his hand, he holds a small box, its contents still unknown to anyone but him. It's become something of a ritual for him, these early morning visits to his sanctuary, especially on days when major decisions loom ahead. His eyes drift to the left wall, where his first pair of wrestling boots rests in a custom-made glass case. They're worn and cracked, the leather peeling at the edges, but to Dwayne, they're more valuable than any of his Hollywood awards. These boots carried him through his debut match in the WWF, back when he was just Rocky Maivia, a third-generation wrestler trying to live up to his family's legacy. Next to the boots sits a torn football jersey from his days at the University of Miami. The number 94 is barely visible now, faded by time and wear, but the memory of wearing it still burns bright. Football had been his first dream, his ticket out of poverty, until a devastating injury forced him to pivot, a turning point that would eventually lead him to become one of the most recognized entertainers in the world. But it's the wall directly across from the door that holds the most precious artifacts of all. Here, in a simple black frame, hangs a handwritten letter that Dwayne reads at least once a week. The paper has yellowed slightly at the edges, but the words remain clear, written in blue ink by a trembling hand. Dear Rock. I didn't want to live anymore. I had given up. Then I saw your interview where you talked about your battles with depression. How you fought through it. How you never stopped pushing forward. I've watched that video 47 times now. Today, I chose to live. Today, I chose to be strong. Thank you for saving my life. Marcus. Dwayne remembers the day he received this letter. It arrived among thousands of other pieces of fan mail, but something about it caught his eye. Perhaps it was the slight water stains on the paper, tears, he later realized, or maybe it was simply destiny that drew him to open this particular envelope first. The letter changed everything for him. On days when the weight of his various commitments feels overwhelming, when the pressure of being the Rock becomes almost too much to bear, he comes here. He reads Marcus's words again, and remembers why he pushes himself so hard, why he maintains his grueling schedule, why he never stops trying to inspire others. Today, though, is different. The small box in his hand contains something that will soon join the carefully curated collection in this room. Something that represents not just another milestone, but a complete transformation of everything he thought he knew about his journey. As he takes a deep breath and steps fully into the room, the weight of the box seems to increase, as if acknowledging the gravity of the moment that's about to unfold. Dwayne moves deeper into the room, his calloused fingers tracing the edge of the small box. The morning light catches on a collection of framed photos on the far wall, snapshots of moments that shaped him. But it's the empty space between two frames that draws his attention now. He'd been saving that spot for something special, something that took him years to track down. With deliberate care, he places the box on a carved wooden table in the center of the room. This table, made from reclaimed wood from his grandfather's wrestling arena in Samoa, has become his altar of reflection. As he lifts the lid, his expression shifts, a complex mixture of pain and triumph crossing his features. Inside lies a single worn dollar bill, accompanied by a small brass key and a faded eviction notice dated 25 years ago. To anyone else, these items might seem worthless, but to Dwayne, They represent the moment that changed everything, the day he found himself with only $7 to his name. He picks up the dollar bill, weathered and soft from age. It's one of the original 7 he had in his pocket after being cut from the Canadian Football League, when his dreams of professional football died a quiet death in a small office in Calgary. He'd spent years tracking down this particular bill, working with currency collectors and banking archives to authenticate it as one of the actual dollars from that pivotal day. $7, he whispers to himself, the words echoing in the quiet room. His eyes drift to a shelf where 6 other dollar bills rest in a custom frame, each one representing a moment of rock bottom that became the foundation of his rise. The brass key triggers an even more visceral memory. It's the key to the beat-up car he was living in during those dark days. He'd kept it all these years, a reminder of nights spent reclined in the driver's seat, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd made the biggest mistake of his life by not becoming a lawyer like his mother wanted. The eviction notice, its red stamp still bold against the yellowing paper, had been harder to find. He'd spent months working with his old landlord's family to locate it in their records. When they finally found it, they tried to refuse his offer to buy it, wanting to give it to him as a gift. But Dwayne had insisted on paying, and paying well. He needed this piece of his history to cost him something, just as the original had. Standing there, holding these artifacts of his lowest point, Dwayne's mind drifts to another corner of the room, where a worn gym bag sits preserved in a glass case. Inside that bag are the clothes he wore during his first wrestling match, not in the WWF, but in flea market parking lots and high school gymnasiums, earning $40 a night and all the hot dogs he could eat. He remembers those days with startling clarity, the smell of stale popcorn and sweat, the echo of his boots on thin wrestling mats, and the handful of spectators who barely looked up from their phones. But even then, something inside him knew, this was just the beginning. The room seems to pulse with energy as he carefully arranges the new items in their designated spot on the wall. The dollar bill, key, and eviction notice, now professionally mounted in a custom frame, fill the empty space perfectly. But it's more than just filling a physical gap, it's completing a chapter of his story that needed to be told. As he steps back to observe his handiwork, his phone buzzes in his pocket. The outside world is calling, reminding him of meetings, scripts to read, workouts to complete. But before he turns to leave, he pauses, his eyes drawn to a small notebook resting on the wooden table. Its pages are filled with goals he wrote down during those $7 days, dreams that seemed impossible at the time. He picks it up, knowing that what's written on the next unread page will set the stage for the next chapter of his journey.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.
The notebook's leather cover is cracked and worn, its pages wavy from years of humid arena locker rooms and countless cross-country flights. Dwayne settles into a worn leather armchair in the corner, the same chair his father used to sit in before matches, visualizing victory. As he opens the notebook, a small Polaroid photo slips out and falls to the floor. Bending to retrieve it, he finds himself staring at a younger version of himself, standing in front of a mirror in a dingy locker room. The image captures him practicing the iconic, people's eyebrow, for the first time, though back then it was just an expression he was experimenting with, not yet the cultural phenomenon it would become. The date scrawled on the bottom reads, November 15, 96, 3 days before his WWF debut as Rocky Maivia. Returning the photo to its place, he begins to read the pages of the notebook. Each entry is a window into his evolution, not just as a wrestler or actor, but as a person discovering his true identity. The early pages are filled with wrestling move combinations, carefully diagrammed and annotated. But it's the personal notes in the margins that tell the real story. One page particularly catches his eye, a list titled, The Man I Want to Become, written during those $7 days. The goals listed seem almost naive now in their simplicity, yet they hold a power that still moves him. Make my family proud. Never need to count dollars again. Help others who feel stuck. Become someone kids can look up to. Make history, not just in wrestling. Tell stories that matter. Never forget where I came from. Below the list, in different ink and clearly added years later, he had written, "Goals aren't dreams if you have a plan. They're prophecies waiting to be fulfilled." As he turns the page, he finds the detailed outline he'd written for his character's evolution from Rocky Maivia to The Rock. It wasn't just about changing his ring name, it was about embracing his authentic self. The pages are filled with catchphrases he'd workshopped, most crossed out, but a few circled with stars beside them. "If you smell what The Rock is cooking," appears in the corner, surrounded by multiple exclamation points and a note that reads, "This feels right." Further in, the wrestling notes give way to something else, early thoughts about transitioning to Hollywood. What catches his eye is a particular entry from 2001, "They say no wrestler has ever made it big in Hollywood. Good. I'll be the first. But not just as a tough guy, I want to make kids laugh. Want to show them that being strong doesn't mean you can't be kind." A post-it note stuck between the pages contains a quote from his grandfather, Peter Maivia, "Our stories are written in our blood before they're written in the history books." At the time, young Dwayne had added his own note beneath it, "Then my blood better have one hell of a story to tell." The most recent pages of the notebook contain something different, sketches and ideas for this very room, the place of power. Each item currently displayed was first conceptualized here, with notes about their significance and the lessons they carry. But it's the last filled page that holds his attention longest. It's a letter to himself, written on a long flight after receiving Marcus's letter about depression. The words, slightly smudged but still legible, remind him of a promise he made to himself. Every achievement, every dollar earned, every movie made, they're not the legacy. The legacy is in the lives you touch, the hope you create, the change you inspire. The real place of power isn't in this room, it's in the impact you leave on others. Keep building, keep lifting others, keep pushing forward. The $7 man died so The Rock could live, but Dwayne Johnson lives to make sure no one else has to face their battles alone. As he closes the notebook, his eyes drift to a blank wall in the room, the only space not yet filled with memories. He's been saving this space for something special, something he's been working on in secret. Standing up, he walks over and places his hand on the empty wall, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. What he plans to put here will change everything, not just for him, but for countless others who need their own place of power. Standing before the empty wall, Dwayne reaches into his pocket and pulls out a folded blueprint. As he spreads it across the wooden table, the morning light illuminates an intricate design, a vision that's been years in the making. The blueprint shows what appears to be an interactive digital wall, but it's so much more than that. "The wall of light," he whispers, running his fingers along the detailed drawings. The project, known only to a handful of people, represents the evolution of his place of power from a personal sanctuary to a beacon of hope for others. The design calls for a seamless integration of technology and storytelling. The wall will feature an array of digital panels, each one connected to a network of youth centers, hospitals, and rehabilitation facilities across the country. Through these panels, Dwayne will be able to connect with people fighting their own battles, sharing not just his story, but creating a space where their stories can live too. He picks up a small remote control prototype from a hidden drawer in the table. With a click, a holographic projection springs to life on the empty wall, giving him a glimpse of what's to come. The first image that appears is a digital mosaic, thousands of tiny photographs combining to form a larger image of The Rock's iconic raised eyebrow. But as he steps closer, he can see that each tiny photo is actually a story of transformation, a testament to human resilience. There's the story of Maria, a teenage girl who fought through physical therapy after a car accident, inspired by watching Dwayne's workout videos during her recovery. Next to her photo is David, a former addict who found the strength to get clean after reading about Dwayne's $7 days. These stories, and countless others like them, will become part of the wall's living narrative. But the true innovation lies in its interactive capabilities. The wall will serve as a portal, allowing Dwayne to conduct real-time motivational sessions with people who need it most. He envisions connecting with children in hospital wards, teenagers in rehabilitation centers, and veterans struggling with PTSD, all from this sacred space that has given him so much strength. As he studies the blueprint, his mind drifts to a recent visit to a children's hospital in Miami. He remembers meeting a young boy, Tommy, who was battling an aggressive form of leukemia. Tommy had created his own version of a place of power in his hospital room, a small collection of rock action figures, movie posters, and a handwritten list of daily affirmations that eerily mirrored the ones in Dwayne's old notebook. That meeting had been the final push he needed to move forward with the Wall of Light project. He understood then that the true power of his sanctuary wasn't in the artifacts it contained, but in its potential to inspire others to create their own sources of strength. Moving to his desk, Dwayne pulls out another set of plans, these ones showing similar rooms being constructed in children's hospitals across the country. Each one will be connected to his Wall of Light, creating a network of inspiration and support. The rooms will be customizable, allowing each person to build their own place of power, filled with things that give them strength. A notification pops up on his phone. The construction team is ready to begin installation of the wall's framework. In just a few weeks, this empty space will become a bridge between his journey and the journeys of countless others. But as he gazes at the holographic display, something catches his eye, a small glitch in the projection, a reminder that technology alone isn't enough. Reaching for the notebook once more, he opens to a fresh page. If this wall is going to truly change lives, it needs something more than just circuits and screens. It needs the same spirit that transformed a $7 man into the Rock. As he begins to write, the first rays of sunset paint the room in shades of gold, and the empty wall seems to pulse with potential, waiting to come alive with the power of shared dreams and collective strength. What he writes next will become the heart of the Wall of Light, a manifesto of sorts, but also a promise to everyone who will connect through this space. The words flow from his pen, each one carrying the weight of experience and the hope of transformation. But before he can finish, an unexpected visitor arrives at the door of his sanctuary, bringing news that will add an entirely new dimension to his vision. The knock on the door echoes through the room, pulling Dwayne away from his writing. He turns to find Marcus standing in the doorway, the same Marcus whose letter about depression has held a place of honor on his wall for years. But he's not alone. Behind him stands a group of people, each holding an item in their hands. "Sorry to interrupt," Marcus says, his voice steady now, unlike the trembling handwriting from his letter years ago. "But we heard about what you're building here, and we wanted to contribute something to the Wall of Light." Dwayne rises from his desk, emotion catching in his throat as he recognizes some of the faces. There's Maria from physical therapy, David from rehabilitation, and even young Tommy from the Miami Children's Hospital, now in remission and standing tall. Each person he'd mentioned in his plans for the wall has somehow found their way here, turning thought into reality. Tommy steps forward first, holding up a worn action figure of the Rock. "This stayed with me through every chemotherapy session," he says, his voice strong despite his young age. "I thought maybe it could help someone else now." One by one, they step forward, each presenting an item that helped them through their darkest times. Maria brings her first post-accident walking shoes. David offers his 1-year sobriety chip. Each object carries a story of transformation, of battles fought and won. As Dwayne accepts each item, the Wall of Light behind him flickers to life, though it hasn't been installed yet. The holographic display seems to respond to the energy in the room, creating phantom images of where each item will soon rest. But it's what happens next that takes his breath away. Marcus reaches into his jacket and pulls out a folded piece of paper, not his original letter, but something new. "I've been working on this for months," he explains, unfolding what turns out to be an architectural drawing. "I'm an architect now, and I've designed a way to make the Wall of Light sustainable using solar power. Every story it shares, every life it touches, will be powered by light itself." The symbolism isn't lost on Dwayne. From the darkness of depression that prompted Marcus's first letter to creating a system that literally turns light into power, the journey has come full circle. Moving to his desk, Dwayne picks up the notebook where he'd been writing the Wall of Light's manifesto. He looks down at his unfinished words, then at the faces before him, and understands that the manifesto had already written itself through their stories. The place of power was never about the items on these walls, he says, his voice filling the room. It was about the power we find in each other's journeys. Every artifact here is just a chapter in a larger story, a story that belongs to all of us. He turns to the group, each person holding their contribution, each face reflecting the strength they've found. This room started as a sanctuary for my $7 days, he continues, but it's growing into something more. Every person who connects through the Wall of Light will add their own light to it, their own story, their own power. As if in response, the holographic display shifts, creating a cascade of light that fills the room. In its glow, the assembled group sees their reflections multiplied countless times, representing all the lives their stories will touch through the Wall of Light. Tommy steps forward again, looking up at Dwayne with wise eyes that have seen too much for his young age. So it's not just your place of power anymore, is it? It's everyone's. No, little brother, Dwayne responds, placing a gentle hand on Tommy's shoulder. It always was. I just needed all of you to help me understand that. As the sun sets outside, casting long shadows through the room's single window, the group begins sharing their stories, each one a testament to the human spirit's capacity for resilience. The place of power, once a private sanctuary, transforms into what it was always meant to be, a beacon of hope, a bridge between struggles and triumph, a reminder that no one fights alone. And there, on the wall that was once empty, their stories begin to weave together, creating a tapestry of human courage that will continue to grow, one light at a time, illuminating the path for others to find their own power, their own way forward, their own reason to never stop.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.